The actual making of the show began a year ago because I was in hotel quarantine when I crossed the border between New South Wales and Queensland. It was for me this idea of like something that's a loop. So in the exhibition, you see pairs of paintings rather than a single paint hung in the exhibition. And the idea was that this viewing point, the Belvedere, but that there's two of them so that you, in a way, are sort of forced to look at the similarities or the discrepancies between each of these pictures. So that was sort of the jumping off point for this work, is like seeing something that you think is familiar, but then realising on a second glance that it's not. The house is sort of a metaphor, if you like, for this thing that just doesn't change, but it's meant to be sort of an atypical modernist home. But at the same time, what I like about it is that it refers to the process of photography, which is the backbone of my work. And for me, these homes are a bit like cameras. As much as you're looking into them, their blank big space windows, which are all dark, are kind of looking back at you too. With the pool furniture, they, to me, are a bit like the Van Gogh chairs. The idea that the chair's meant to be used, but it's idle. A lot of those modern homes were built with the idea of affordable housing, but now they're extremely expensive and very rare because they were built with artisanal expertise and beautiful materials. Now they're art objects, so they're sort of dormant in a way, and chairs, for me, partly reflect on that. The thing that still gets me excited being in the studio is the process of stencil painting, because when you put the stencil down onto the canvas and then you peel it away after it's been painted, it's very similar to putting a piece of paper into the developing bath in the photographic darkroom and watching a picture reveal itself. This instantaneous nature of watching a piece of paper turn into an image. In the studio, even though I'm using paint for the most part, it's still a very photographic way of working with paint. I try to keep it pretty loose at the start so the background layers can contrast that directly and remind, hopefully, the viewer this is different to the painting next to it. Colour is such a great way to draw somebody in. You can use those elements and those colours to really flip the feeling of it. I love that it's really just colour that's changing your perception of it or your reaction to it. The process I'd started when I was awarded a residency at the Frank Lloyd Wright School of Architecture in Phoenix in 2016. I was really not sure about what to do, and I was thinking, well, my work's so photographically based, but it's very hard to explain that to people. So I started this series of photograms out there, and they were really fun to do. I did one every day, but the idea was that you didn't know the outcome of each work, even though you're using the stencil, which I would use to paint. The control of the studio, the control of the way you can select paint or mix paint to your liking is totally out of your hands. You know, you're using these materials that will react to the sunlight, react to the elements. So it was sort of taking that template and changing it to do something that's unknown. And for me, it was a visual way to describe the painting's process too, because there's a comfort in that process having parameters, but you can push it so many different directions, but you're still coming back to that same light and shade.